Hi, I'm Suhe Palomares, social media manager at Family Circle, and we're here today with the author of Stretched Too Thin, Jessica Turner.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
So happy that you came. And so we're here to talk about mom life and being stretched too thin and tips for balancing. Actually, you don't like that word.
I don't like the word balance. We'll
for
get into
managing
that.
mom life. So welcome and thank you.
Oh gosh, I'm so glad to be here, and I think this is such an important topic because, let's be honest, we all feel stretched too thin, right?
Yes.
Which is why I wrote this book.
Yes. And so I wanted to start off with The Mom Creative, which is a blog that you also have.
Yep.
So what inspired that and kind of what led to writing the book as well?
Well, I'm a bit of a blogging dinosaur because I started blogging in 2006.
Wow.
So when I started blogging,
Early
it
adopter.
was, I didn't have kids yet. It wasn't called The Mom Creative, but I was just sharing craft projects I was doing in our life in Nashville. My husband and I lived there. And then I got pregnant in 2007. And that was right kind of at the start of the mom blogging movement, and so I started talking more about motherhood, and then as the blog has evolved and grown and I've grown and evolved, it's moved into more just lifestyle content about how do I manage a busy life and still feel grounded and happy and like I'm really thriving. So that sometimes can be product reviews, sometimes it's throwing great parties. I love to throw a good party, recipes, just a little bit of everything.
Yes. So let's dive right in.
Okay.
With mom life, stretched too thin, it's a topic that resonates.
Yeah.
And it's something that day to day all moms, I think, struggle with.
Right.
Working moms, moms that stay at home as well. So what are some tips for balancing that sort of stuff out? How do you manage?
Yeah, well, I think you've got to be comfortable with good enough is good enough. I think the big thing in Stretched Too Thin, which is geared toward working moms, but I've had a lot of moms who stay at home who have found so much value in it, is recognizing that you can't be all things to all people. And so being comfortable with, you know what, today this is the thing that I'm going to focus on. This is the thing that I'm going to take care of. And, if the laundry sits another day or the dishes don't all get done, like, that's okay. I think when we get to the end of our lives, we need to remember what is going to matter to us are the people in our lives.
Yes.
And I don't know if you got to this part in the book, but I talk about the idea of juggling balls because that's an analogy we hear a lot, right? That we're juggling a lot of balls. But we often think about these balls as being all the same, that they're all like red rubber balls. But there's actually two types of balls we're juggling. We're juggling rubber balls and glass balls. And those glass balls are the things that if we drop them, they would break.
Yeah.
And we don't want those things to break. And that's ourselves. Those are the people that we love. Our jobs, our homes, those are rubber balls, like it's going to be okay if that email doesn't get answered in that minute, or it's going to be okay if you leave that chore. What really matters are the people. And I think when I recognized that in my life and started looking at life through the lens of, okay, what are my glass balls? What are the things that really matter? It was a really pivotal change for me.
Yeah. I mean, what I love so much about the book is that it has a worksheet where you kind of reflect on different areas in your life, whether that's work, your partner, and then it asks you to reflect on your core values and what matters most to you.
Right.
And so that also helps you prioritize then the rest of your busy life.
Absolutely. And, I think we sometimes will do that for our work or if we're, establishing a business or something. We'll think about our values or we'll see values at church, but we don't necessarily think about those for our own lives. And it's a really important exercise to think about what are the things that really matter to me and is my life reflecting those things that I say are the most important to me.
Right. And before we even started this, we talked a little bit behind the scenes, and you mentioned that you don't really appreciate the word balance.
Yeah.
And we hear it so much when it comes to mom life and motherhood. How do you find balance? How do you find balance? Why do you reject the word so much? And what should we be thinking instead?
Yeah. I read a book by a guy named Matthew Kelly, and he used the word satisfaction. And in that context, he was talking about work-life satisfaction. And I really like that a lot better than balance because there are going to be seasons where work is going to be busier, or there are going to be seasons where home is busier. And absolutely, those two things are bleeding into each other. If I've got a sick kid at home, I'm thinking about that when I'm at the office, right?
Yeah.
Likewise, if work is really busy, I'm probably taking that home, or I'm looking at email at home. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. So we shouldn't think about them in terms of balance, but rather, am I happy? Am I thriving? Am I satisfied in all these different roles that I'm playing? And if I am, then you're in a good place. And if you're not, if your marriage is suffering, or if you're not happy in your job, or you feel like you're not investing well in your kids, well, then maybe some things need to shift. But I think thinking about it in terms of satisfaction or happiness or thriving over balance is a healthier way to look at it.
Yeah. Have you seen that meme that talks about, like, you know, we expect working moms to work as if they don't have kids,
right,
and also parent as if they don't have a job?
Yeah.
That's
so
relatable.
But it is so relatable. And I surveyed 2,000 working moms for the research for Stretch Too Thin, and then interviewed dozens. And I think the big takeaway for a lot of women is that they've seen themselves in this, that they're like, oh, I read this and I didn't feel so alone, and I just love hearing that from women.
That's awesome. So I'm going to refresh the page and get your questions for Jessica, and hopefully we can start this conversation.
One of the things that, while you're pulling that up, that I'll bring up here is that in the survey, the 2 biggest pain points for working moms that they said were really tension points for them were managing their homes and self-care. And, you know, I think it is really easy for us to put ourselves last, but if you think about it, when you are investing in yourself, you're going to be a better wife, a better mom, a better coworker, a better friend, because you're taking care of yourself. Yes. And so I just want to encourage moms that if you're feeling stretched too thin, don't put yourself off the list, add yourself to the list, because that's actually going to help you be better.
Yes. So lots of hellos so far. Please feel free to join in, ask your questions. And in the meantime, we could talk a little bit about hacks and what sort of, you know, to-do list sort of things we can do day to day that can help.
Yeah. Well, why don't we start with a couple hacks related to home management, because I think that is such a stressor for a lot of us. I know I always feel like my house is a hot mess, right?
Yes. No one's allowed over.
Right, yeah. There was actually one woman that I can't remember if I interviewed her or if she was in the survey, but she said, yeah, I'm so embarrassed by my home that if someone comes over, I step out and talk to them on the porch. And I was like, I think I've done that a time or two before. So I think as much automation as you can do, the better your life is going to be. And what I mean by that is, what are things that you can schedule to be delivered on an ongoing basis? Because the less that you have to think about, oh, we need juice boxes, oh, we need toilet paper, oh, you know, I need to order light bulbs, whatever those things are that can just come automatically, the more streamlined things are going to be for you. And it's
a good tip.
It's so easy between Target and Amazon and Grove Collaborative and all those different types of sites that do that delivery. I never think about, oh my gosh, we're almost out of toilet paper, because it comes every month from Amazon, you know? And so that is a huge one, term, and you guys, I think maybe have written about this, is mental load for women, which is the silent job of noticing and remembering, and we're carrying the brunt of that. And so much of that is related to household.
Yes. No, it's so true. And you talk a little bit about of the shoulds, which I think that leads on to as well. Like, I should be doing this. I should be food shopping, whatever the case is, and how there's a mental sort of shift that needs to happen with should and would you call it want, or, you know, how do you make that change?
Yeah, I think recognizing that you have that dialogue is the first step. Recognizing that you are comparing yourself to an ideology or media or what you're seeing on social media, you know, and saying, just because somebody else is doing that doesn't mean that I need to be doing that same thing. What works really well for one family isn't going to necessarily work for you ever or in the season. And so instead of thinking what you should be doing, think about what is important to you, going back to those values. What is something that you're passionate about? You know, thinking about the holidays that we've just finished, right? Our family sat down and said, okay, what are the things that are your must-dos? And I think if you think about the need-to-dos versus the nice-to-dos, that can also be a good lens for what decisions you should be making.
Yeah, and then I feel like once the book makes this transition too, is that you're able to then be more present as a partner, more present as a mom.
Absolutely.
Which is also something that once you have that ticker in the back of your mind, it's hard.
It's really hard. Yeah. It's really hard. And I shared this.
This is a therapy session.
Yes. Here, let me hug you. I shared this on Instagram yesterday because I live in Nashville and we're in New York City, and I'm here on business, and I was thinking about all of the things, getting ready, and was kind of stressed yesterday morning because I was packing in the morning and then going to work and then going right from work to the airport. And so my mind was really busy, and my little girl said, "Mommy, you're leaving," and she's 7, and she ran up the stairs and she said, "I have something for you." And she gave me this little card that she had written, and it said on it, "No matter how far away you are, I am always with you."
That's so sweet.
Isn't that so sweet? But it just reminded me that even in the midst of our busyness, like, if we're invested enough in our kids in the day-to-day, it's okay. Like, it is okay to be a working mom and have a family.
Yes.
You know, like, those things are not one or the other.
Okay, so I'm going to take a look at some questions. Oh, Barbara, thank you. I needed this today.
Oh, that's so great.
My house is a hot mess too. Someone said, Jane, stop shopping on Amazon. Okay. We get the feedback.
And I think the automation can come in lots of different forms.
Yes.
So there are other ways of automating. You can have somebody do your shopping for you and shop at a local business or a local market, that you care about or that you want to invest in. The idea, though, is just that you aren't necessarily having to run out for all of those things when you're on empty.
Right. And what do you think bringing in partners into it? What sort of discussions can be had at home with your partner so that you're not stretched too thin?
Right. It's so important to have discussions because I think so often we wait till we're at our breaking point and then we have a huge blowout instead of, hey, this is something that I'm really needing to feel supported in. And another key topic is around the idea of help, and help starts at home with our spouses if we're married, with our kids,
right. Your community.
Absolutely. And getting that help, whether that is right at home or it's trading with somebody or it's paying for help. It can look different for different people, but I think asking for help is vulnerable and it can sometimes come with emotions that we're not proud of, but ultimately I think I've learned that the more I ask for help, the more I want to ask for help, that we're not meant to do everything alone and be superwoman.
And how does that conversation start if you're not used to it, for example?
I think that it starts with sitting down and saying, you know what, I've been feeling really stretched too thin in XYZ area. So, for instance, I know women have talked about their spouses maybe work outside their home and they don't, and they work part-time at home or something like that, and so their spouse will come home and so they feel like they don't want to say, hey, can you help with this because they've been working. Well, we've all been working all day. Our work might look different, but I think that you need to say, you know what, I think we need to maybe try or like just test. Let's see how this would work if you did the dishes and I bathed the kids instead of I've been doing the dishes and I've been bathing the kids. Is that something that we could split 50-50? And I've had women with that particular example say, yeah, I love doing the dishes because I can listen to my podcast or my audiobook and it gives my husband time with the kids. So I think just starting with one thing instead of like, you never help and I want you to do all of the things, like start with one thing that might make a positive difference and then you can build on that.
And so I know that for a lot of moms, dinner is also a huge thing. What are some hacks that you can think of to sort of alleviate the nightly, weeknight sort of?
Sure. I think it's really great to meal plan.
Yeah.
I know that it's something that we hear a lot, but it really does work.
It does.
So I do that on Sundays for the week.
Yeah.
I plan out what our meals are going to be, and I'm fortunate that my husband works from home. I work at an office, and so he'll often get those started, or we'll throw it in the crock pot. I think anytime that you can do any sort of batch cooking, so if you're going to roast a chicken, roast 2 chickens, so that then you can use that shredded chicken in soup another night. Try to be doing a batch form of cooking, or be thinking about as you put together your menu, what are things that can build on each other during the week so that you're not having to cook every single night.
That's a good tip. And so what do you hope that moms get from Stretched Too Thin ultimately?
Yeah. I hope that they know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
That this is something we all feel. I wrote the book and I feel stretched too thin sometimes, often, but that they're not alone, that there is a path to go from feeling like you're barely hanging on and you're just barely surviving to you're really thriving. I hope that at the end of every chapter there's questions, which you mentioned earlier, and I hope that that allows women to really make it personal and make it their own unique story, because every story is unique. There isn't a one-size-fits-all plan, but I think with a lot of the tools and tips that are in here, that even if you apply just a couple, you'll be well on your way to maybe feeling a little less overwhelmed in a few areas of your life.
And I find that it goes in waves. Right? So
Totally.
some months you might feel like you have it together.
Right.
And then there are other months where you're just like, okay, I need to reevaluate, or
Right.
I'm feeling like there's more of a load. Where can I readjust and that sort of thing? So,
Right. You know, there's always going to be great things to do.
Yeah.
And what I've learned to ask myself is, even though this is a great thing, is it a great thing for me or for my family right now?
Mm-hmm.
And it might be that it's a no now, but it's not going to be a no later. And that's okay. And it's okay to say no, and it's empowering to say no, and there's freedom in saying no. And so don't be guilted into saying yes to things that you don't want to do, that you don't love doing, because ultimately it's your schedule and your life and your time. And so
no, it's
be
true.
empowered by that.
I also wanted to get through your first book, which is focused on self-care.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you could show them that.
Yeah, so this is the Fringe Hours, Making Time for You. So this book solely deals with self-care because it is so important.
Yes.
So many women really struggle with making time for themselves. They put themselves last. And so that book is just focused on how do you find those little pockets of time that often go underused or wasted and use them to do the things that you really love, which
I
are the
need
Fringe
to
Hours.
read that one too. So it's self-care, I feel like, on social media looks a lot like being in a bubbly tub.
Yeah, it's all like massages and manicures
Yes.
and bubbles, right?
So what's real life self-care for moms?
Self-care is so much more holistic than that. And there's a self-care chapter in Stretched Too Thin, too, because it is about our minds. It's about our bodies. You know, self-care sometimes looks like going for a walk or going to the gym. You know, it means going to the doctor and not saying, you know what, I'm going to skip that dentist appointment this time. I'm going to go next time, or, you know, pushing those types of appointments, because there really is only one you, and so we've got to take care of our bodies. It absolutely does include taking a warm bath every once in a while, or reading a book. In the Fringe Hours, I surveyed a couple thousand women as well, and the number one thing that women said they would do if they had more time was read.
Okay.
Which I thought was so interesting, because you can read anywhere. You can download a free Kindle app and read on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
On average, we spend 45 to 60 minutes a day waiting.
Wow.
So that's a huge chunk of time that you can be reading or listening to books. So there's always opportunities, I feel like, for more reading.
I know personally I've been loving podcasts so much.
Yeah.
And I find that my commute is a great me time to just put in my earphones, listen to a podcast, and just have my own me time before getting home.
Yeah, that's really great. I also really encourage women to get up a little earlier than their families so they can invest in themselves first. I had a friend who once said to me, how you spend your 5 to 9 determines how you'll spend your 9 to 5.
Okay.
And I love that idea that, you know, if I take care of myself first, I'm going to be able to take care of everyone else better.
Yes. So let me look at... Barbara asks, are you good at organizing? I need some tips.
Well, Barbara, I'm not great at organizing, but I do have a couple tips, and that is to look at what areas you maybe need to organize. Like, for instance, your front door. Are there a lot of shoes at the front door? What's a hack that you could use there? I know in our family we've got these drawers that the kids all pop their shoes in when they get home. So it's right at the door. Of course, sometimes, you know, they're little, they'll put them in front of the baskets.
Yeah.
And so we have to, but we're getting there, you know. I think the idea of just touch it once. So if you've got junk mail or whatever, don't set it on the table and then let it pile up. But instead, what do I need to do with this? And then go ahead and take care of it right there.
Mm-hmm. The entryway, I think, is a huge one. Like, once my entryway is a mess, I feel even worse.
Right. Have you watched the new Netflix show, Tidying Up, yet?
With Marie Kondo?
Yes.
No, but
well,
I've heard about
I tell you, if you need inspiration for organizing, don't listen to us on Facebook Live. Go watch that show, because that is really inspirational and motivating. Yeah, it is.
I was telling a coworker, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to fold my underwear the way that she
does.
does.
Or my t-shirts. I can't.
But, you know, it's a good start.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, she says my dresser is a mess. I can't keep it clean.
So I would recommend clearing it completely, and I don't know if she's talking about the top of her dresser, but in her dresser. But if it's the top of your dresser, just clear it completely, and then pay attention to that space and pay attention to what really needs to be on there and what doesn't. If it's in your drawers that is needing some cleaning, empty those out Marie Kondo style. Like, take them all out and then decide, maybe not if it brings you joy or not, but just, is this something I wear? Is this something that could need, you know, to be donated and start over? I think a lot of times the emptying out process makes it much easier because you don't want to put as much in those drawers.
I think what's so awesome too is like you get to donate all that stuff, which you feel really good about after. So yeah. Let's see, any other comments? So we'll just chat a little bit more amongst ourselves.
That's great. That's great. One thing that I'd love to maybe briefly touch on is marriage, which I know everybody isn't married who's maybe watching, but it was something that was a struggle for a lot of women in my survey, and it makes sense. Particularly, I feel like when you're in the season of young kids and they're needing so much from you, and then as our kids get older, they're involved in a lot of things, and there's a lot of carting around, and so for a lot of people it feels like their marriages are getting the short end of the stick, you know, particularly when they're feeling stretchy thin. So I think it's really important for us to remember that hopefully our children are going to leave, right? And the person we're going to be left with is our spouse. So it's really important to invest in that relationship, whether that is setting date nights that once a month we're going to go out and we're going to put away our phones and we're not going to talk about the kids and we're going to really connect with one another. It's how we speak to one another. You know, it can be as simple as how you say hello in the morning when you wake up and how you set the day. But I just think that it's important to acknowledge that feelings of being stretched too thin can really impact our marriages.
No, when my son was first born, we decided we were going to have date nights once a month. And we were good about that for a while, but then it fell off. And then we were like, wow, we haven't had date night in so long. And just a few weeks ago, we did for the first time in a while. And we were like, this was so nice. You know, but it is sort of, he's still very little in our case. And it's like, who's going to take care of him? Who's going to babysit? We don't have a lot of family around. We do, but it's also like just a juggle of it. But yeah, I definitely feel like it's again something where sometimes it could kind of get tipped over or get left behind.
And it's a really powerful thing to model for our children as well. You know, you want them to see your relationship healthy and happy, and that may mean that you go out and you are away. The same is true for friendship. I've had a lot of women say to me, well, I've been gone all day at work, so I feel guilty if I leave at night to go out with my friends.
And I definitely feel that sometimes.
And you know what? We make time for our kids to have play dates. We take them to birthday parties, and we model for them in their childhood that it's important. So therefore, it's important for us to also be investing in relationships and for them to hear, you know what, mommy is going out with her friends, or mommy's going to book club, you know, just like you like to read, mommy likes to read, and she's going to do something for her. And they're going to survive if you are not home one night a week or 2 nights a week, you know, like that isn't something to feel guilty about, because when they grow up, you want them to have friends, right? You want them to have relationships with other people. So definitely make time for those relationships, and don't feel guilty about it. It is making you a healthier person, and it's so healthy for your kids to see.
And also for, I guess, you know, moms that don't have a partner necessarily and rely more on the village or the community, you know, what are some tips for fostering those relationships as well?
You know, I think that it's great to invite people right into your everyday mess, if you will. You know, like there is a lot of people who really thrive on having people come over for dinner and bring your kids, and you can still get that. Your kids don't have to be away for you to get that type of relationship. You know, it also could be like, I am a member of my local YMCA. They have childcare there, and so I'll drop my kids there, and then I'll do my workout. And I haven't done this before, but I have friends who will meet friends there for like coffee or whatever. So they'll do their hour workout, but the kids can be in childcare for 2 hours. So then they'll also like get coffee at the Y or something like that.
That's a life hack.
So, you know, that's a hack right there. So there's absolutely ways that you can be creative about it. You know, meet a friend at the park and your kids are playing, and you can still get that time together.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I hope that it was encouraging and helpful to people.
So the book is Stretched Too Thin, and The Fringe Hours of Also.
So pick it up, and it's $1.99 right now, the Kindle version and Nook version right now. So that is a good hack too. Save some money, get a Kindle version. So
I'm gonna wheel on over and turn this on.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Truly, it was a real pleasure.
Mom life, we can overrate.
Yeah, we can hack.